What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Inside the Lines. And today we're going to try something a little bit different, right? I want to introduce a new weekly segment to this channel, right? In this segment, I'm going to call it Props and Drops, right? It's the workshop in the name, right? If y'all don't like it, let me know what suggestions you have in the comment section below. But I want to do something called Props and Drops, which is essentially me giving players flowers for their performances over the course of the past weeks, or months, and drops where I'm not really impressed with a player. I'm disappointed in how a player has come out because I had higher expectations, or not just a player, but a team per se, right? So kind of giving my thoughts and impressions on how I feel about a certain player or team, or maybe even coach's performance over the past couple of weeks. Which ones have caught my eye to where I think that I can give them props, I can give them their flowers, or which ones are dropping, right? And I can express my disappointment with. So, without further ado, let's get into it, right? Let's try it out. First things first, we got to give our props to Wemby, Victor Wembanyama. The San Antonio Spurs were 7-5 in the month of December, finished the month 7-5, and he led them in scoring, rebounding, block shots. He leads the league, actually. He led the league even over the course of December with these block shots at 4.4 a game. Most notably, the game that you're seeing right now in the highlight reel, he had a 42-18 4-assist game with 4 blocks to go along with it in the Garden on Christmas Day. Albeit it being a losing effort, it was still a great game from Wemby. He knocked down 6 threes. The way he plays the game, right? The way that he's able to have that feel for the game, especially finishing around the inside, and even his ability to shoot the ball on the perimeter. I mean, this is a guy that's shooting 37.7% from 3 in the month of December, right? Wemby, he's, to me right now, we're talking about the pantheon of players, how we rank players, and maybe this is another segment I do at some point in the future. To me, he's a top 5 player in the NBA right now. What he can provide on the court on a night in and night out basis, from the shooting on the perimeter, from getting teammates involved, how unselfish he is. I mean, this game that he had last night against Denver, 35 points, 18 rebounds, and the game-winning stop on Jokic. This game, to me, was an epitome of what Victor Wembanyama has been for the Spurs all season long, and I wanted to give him his props for the month of December. Now, let's move on to our first drop. Our first drop is going to be the Miami Heat. As an organization, and honestly, let me not even mince words, it's definitely got to be Pat Riley. The whole handling of this Jimmy Butler trade request situation really doesn't sit well with my spirit, right? I don't like how he's handled this whole situation with Jimmy Butler. Now, I can understand sitting back from a perspective and saying, okay, I don't want to pay Jimmy Butler $50-60 million a year to play only 50 or 65 games and turn it on in the play. Wait, isn't that what you want? You want him to turn it on in the postseason, right? We've been talking about playoff Jimmy these past, 3 to 5 years, and how much of an impact it definitely has, right? He's put them in the finals twice, and I bring such an emphasis on that because they had no business being in those finals. They were an 8th seed in 2023 when they made the finals against the Denver Nuggets. So when I look at it from that perspective, I can understand, but I don't understand. But here's the part that really kind of irks me about how Pat Riley's handling the situation: the suspension element, right? So Shams Charania reported yesterday the Miami Heat are not only listening to offers for Jimmy Butler, but they're also placing him on a 7-game suspension. The Players Association is going to, of course, fight that. As Shams reported in his report last night, I saw the tweet on Twitter, putting it up there on the screen. I noticed a trend with Pat Riley, right? When LeBron was in Miami in 14, right, there was a falling out. When Shaq was there in 06, apparently there was a falling out. There was a story Shaq had told about how, him and Pat Riley got into, it was on a podcast with JJ Redick, about how him and Pat Riley got into maybe an intense discussion. And, someone was joking with him, and he said his uncle Jerome was joking with him and talking about, oh, yeah, well, you better pack your bags and start looking for a U-Haul. And next thing you knew, he got traded, right? So there's Shaq, there's LeBron, there's D-Wade, who is a Miami Heat cultural icon, right? There was a falling out in which D-Wade actually ended up leaving Chicago. I'm noticing a trend with players who are star caliber, who Pat Riley continues to have falling out with. I have a lot of respect for Pat Riley. I think the Miami Heat as an organization are the class of the NBA, and they have been for the past 10 to 15 years, or however many years it's been since Pat Riley's taken over. But at the same time, I do think this is a weakness that needs to be acknowledged. The Miami Heat, Pat Riley mainly, in my opinion, needs to do a better job of not ruffling these players' feathers. I'm not saying you baby them and you kind of enable them to where, we've seen situations like Brooklyn and 2020, 2021, where how that whole situation with Kyrie, Kevin Durant, James Harden unfolded. But I am saying that you can't be always playing this level of hardball, tough guy act that makes you lose your star players because you have too large of a sense of pride. Right now, look, the Miami Heat at the end of the day, I think they're going to be okay without Jimmy Butler in the future, right? Maybe not this season, they're not an immediate title contender, but at the same time, I'm very disappointed because obviously this is looking like it's coming, a trade is coming sooner rather than later. And with that, I would have liked to have seen Pat Riley do a little bit more to not appease Jimmy Butler, but to meet both plays in the middle, right? To meet him halfway. So Miami Heat getting my first drop. My next prop has got to be Evan Mobley, another guy who had an excellent game last night. Look, Evan Mobley in the month of December had been phenomenal, right? So in the month of December, so he's recently named the Kia Eastern Conference Defensive Player of the Month, right? And in that month, not only did he have an impact defensively, but he was playing super well offensively. 18.8 points per game, 58.9% shooting from the field, 7.9 boards. But look at that three-point percentage, 52.4% from three in the month of December. And I want to key in on that, right? Because not only did he shoot 52.4% in the month of December, in his career, I want to say the highest amount of threes he had attempted was 1.8 in a season, right? That being the case, I almost said Wemby because I was still talking about Victor Wembanyama. Evan Mobley has been attempting 3.5 three-pointers a game. He's averaging 3.5 attempts per game, right? Almost double what his career high average from three-point attempts were up until this season began. So he's averaging 3.5 attempts per game. He's upped his volume of shooting in this past month and is shooting an even better percentage, 52.4% from three. You want to know how crazy this is and why this is such a big deal? Well, for those of you who don't know, the Cleveland Cavaliers are currently 30-4, the best record in basketball, and are still currently on a 70-win pace. Might need to make a video about that too, in terms of how well they're playing and the fact that 70 games for them might actually be a real conversation. But we want to talk about whether or not Cleveland is real. We want to talk about whether or not Cleveland is a championship contender. Can they scare Boston? You remember I did my tiers earlier in the week. What can they do? What can be achieved? What can be unlocked for them to be even better than what they are now? What we're seeing from Evan Mobley from three. This game you're watching right now, Evan Mobley knocked down 6 of 8 3-pointers. 6 of 8 3-pointers in this game against Charlotte. Last night against Dallas, he made 3 of his 6 attempts from three. The volume is up, the shot makes her up, the percentage is up, and you know what this does for Cleveland's offense, right? So now, you now have about 4 guys on the perimeter, maybe 5 if Allen isn't in, that can now shoot, and even when Allen is in, there's enough spacing on the court because you can set up Evan Mobley in the corner, and he was already a threat from the corner because of his ability to slash, but now you're adding that three-point element. You have to close hard to Evan, he can pump fake, get around you, or they can move the ball even better. The drive and kick game is why Cleveland is so good. That's what I referenced in my Atkinson effect video. You get Evan Mobley the ability to shoot the ball from three. He gives him an up fake. He can get to the basket. He can find Jared Allen. He can kick it out to another shooter. The drive and kick game is so important, and Evan Mobley's ability to shoot the three is really going to help that drive and kick element in Cleveland's offense get to a whole nother level. I mean, let's really give him his props because not only is he an outstanding defensive player, but if he can continue to show the steps that he's taken thus far offensively, and continue to expand on that, that to me unlocks a whole Pandora's box of how hard it's going to be to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in a 7-game series. Shout out to Evan Mobley once again. Had to give him his flowers, his props, his due. Now let's move on to our next drops. Our next drop has to be the Phoenix Suns. This was a team that started the season off 9-2, right? A team that I don't want to say I really had high expectations for them, because I really didn't see them doing all too much. I did think getting a guy like Tyus Jones to kind of run the point would help them to a degree, but at the same time, I still wasn't super high on them as a team altogether. That being said, they did start the season off at 9-2. Their first 11 games, 9-2 in their first 11 games, and I really was impressed with what I was seeing. But since then, I mean, look at them now. They're 4-9 in the month of December, and the biggest reason, the biggest culprit for that is their inability to play defense consistently, right? They're currently sitting at 11th in the West, right? 25th in defensive rating, 28th in defensive rebounding percentage, and 28th in opponent offensive rebounding percentage, 27th in bench points, right? This team, their offense is going to be there, right? You've got Bradley Beal, you've got Kevin Durant, you've got Devin Booker, right? Tyus Jones to run the point. Their offense is going to come, right? But the defense is always something that I feel like this team struggles with, right? This was a team that has most of the players in its core rotation with a defensive rating over 115. And putting it in perspective, right, the average defensive rating within the NBA this season for a point guard is 114.3, for a shooting guard is 114.4, for small forward is 114, and for the power forward is 112.8 and 110 for a center, right? And putting that in perspective, even more perspective, right? Defensive rating, the lower you are, the better you are defensively, right? So you don't want to have a high defensive rating. The Phoenix Suns have about 6 or 7 rotational players who have a defensive rating over 115 in the month of December. That to me is unacceptable. Nobody in your starting 5, nobody in some of your rotations off the bench. That's not everybody, right? Josh Okogie has a 102.8 defensive rating. Also, Iguodala has a 106.7 defensive rating. But when I'm looking at, even Ryan Dunn has a 111.1 defensive rating. But when I look at Jusuf Nurkic, 121.8, Kevin Durant, 120.3, Bradley Beal, 120.2, Tyus Jones, 119.4, Devin Booker, 119.4 or 118.4. Right, Mason Plumlee 116.3. All of these are below average, right, or above average, which is not a good thing, right? But you kind of get the point I'm trying to make here. These guys are not doing a good job of playing defensively, and it's reflective in their record going 4-9. And on top of that, not only you're not playing defense well, but in addition, not playing defense well, you're not rebounding the ball well, right? Like, look, Jusuf Nurkic, what is his purpose if he's not doing a better job of cleaning the glass, right? So the Phoenix Suns, to me, get my drop of the week. And then last but not least, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is my next guy I gotta give props to. This Oklahoma City Thunder team, you want to talk about Cleveland, this Oklahoma City Thunder team is doing this without Chet Holmgren. They're a juggernaut, not only in their conference, but in the entire NBA, without one of their top 3 players, right? And that is in large part due to the play of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think people need to deep how good this Oklahoma City Thunder team. People don't really understand how good Oklahoma City is and Cleveland is. These two teams, to me, I'm giving respect to Boston because they deserve it. They're the defending champs, but I'm really getting to a point where I'm thinking, man, Oklahoma City and Cleveland might be the finals this year, right? And if they get to that point, I expect this guy, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to show out like he did in the month of December. He was named the Kia Western Conference Player of the Month. He leads the league in scoring, definitely a candidate for MVP. So far, Oklahoma holds a 29-5 record, which is the best record in the Western Conference, second best in the NBA, because of obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, like I said, were 30-4. SGA is shooting a 56.3% from the field in the month of December, 36.6% from three, 91% from the foul line with 5 boards, or 6, we'll say 5 points, we'll round it up, 6 boards, 5.2 assists per game. I mean, this guy has been phenomenal. He was my pick for MVP coming into the season, and he's still my pick for MVP right now. And, I was talking about Cleveland, I was talking about OKC. They get together this Wednesday. They clash this Wednesday. Might do a video kind of breaking down what I expect to see from that game, because that's a potential finals preview. Two teams, best in the East, best in the West, coming together on a Wednesday night. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I got to give SGA his props. He has been phenomenal for OKC, and by large accounts, to me, has a very, very good claim to fame in terms of maybe possibly being the best player in the NBA currently as it stands right now. But that is the first edition of Props and Drops. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you guys think has been on a hot streak? Who would you guys give props to this week, or who would you guys feel like I left out in my drops? Let me know in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time. But until next time, we hope you keep it inside the lines.